Hi, I'm author Kate Messner, and First Chapter Friday today is Wildlife Rescue, a brand new chapter book series about two kids who volunteer with their families with a local wildlife hospital, and they get sent on missions to save all kinds of very cute baby animals. The first book in this series is How to Save an Otter. It's illustrated by Jen Bricking and published by Bloomsbury. And I'll tell you a little secret. Instead of reading just one chapter today for First Chapter Friday, we're going to read two because they're kind of short. So this is chapter 1, A Romp of Otters. The little otter slid down the muddy bank into the pond. Sploosh! The day had been hot, and the cool water felt good. The setting sun sparkled on the water as she flipped and splashed. She hadn't always loved the pond. Once she'd been afraid of the water. Her mother had taken her and her brothers to the edge and dropped them in. At first, the little otter was terrified. She didn't know how to swim. But her thick fur helped her float. Her mother stood by as she flailed and chirped. Then her mother nudged her back onto the bank. It happened again the next day, and the next. Soon the little otter learned to paddle with her front paws and kick with the back. She learned to propel herself through the water, flexing her body and swishing her tail. Now she loved the pond. She loved diving and swimming through schools of fish. One day she'd be strong enough as a swimmer to catch them on her own. Slide, sploosh, splash! Suddenly, the little otter's three brothers were on top of her, rolling and splashing in the afternoon sun. She pawed at their faces and nipped at their ears. They squeaked and growled and somersaulted over her. Then they all scampered onto the bank and wrestled in the mud. Their mother watched from the shade, but soon she pounced on the pile too, cuddling and tumbling along. One after another, they slipped down the muddy bank into the water. It was a swimming, diving game of catch and chase. The little otter scampered back onto the bank. She zoomed through a hollow log and belly flopped down a mudslide. Sploosh! She caught up with her brothers for another round of play. They splashed and rolled with their mother in the middle of it all. She was teaching them to be fast and agile, teaching them to play and work together, teaching them to hunt and survive. Finally, when the little otter was all tired out, she climbed onto the bank and collapsed in a furry heap with her brothers. Her mother stayed in the water. In the last of the day's light, she dove deep. She swam so fast she was just a blur beneath the surface. When her head popped up, she held a wiggling silver fish in her teeth. She climbed onto the bank and dropped it in the mud. The little otter pounced on it. She was hungry from playing so hard. She had sharp teeth for ripping and tearing, and that fish tasted good. At first, she had to fight with her brothers for space, but suddenly they were gone, and she had the whole meal to herself. That had never happened before. When she looked up, a rising moon sparkled on the water. Her family had run off. The pond felt too quiet without the playful squeaks of her brothers. Where were they? She chirped in the moonlight and heard a deep growl from behind the trees. Chapter 2 is called Watch Out for Alligators. Hey, wait up! Ivy pedaled harder and pretended she couldn't hear Ezra behind her. She loved mountain biking with her brother, but she also loved the quiet pond up ahead. Once Ezra caught up with her, it wouldn't be quiet anymore. She bounced over a root and splashed through a mud puddle. Then she slowed down just before she reached the pond. She didn't want to scare the birds. Sometimes there were spoonbills wading in the murky water. Ivy loved their bright pink feathers. They reminded her of her cousins, Anna and Sophia. They were twins and loved dressing alike, almost always in pink. Back when they all went to the same school, Ivy had tried to match outfits with them sometimes too. New kids always asked if they were triplets. They ate lunch together and shared books and made up funny dances during recess. But last summer, Anna and Sophia had moved to California. Now Ivy ate lunch in the library. Even the books weren't as much fun when she couldn't share them with her cousins. Today, there were no spoonbills at the pond, just a lonely blue heron staring into the water, still as a statue. "What do you see down there?" Ivy whispered. The heron took a slow, long-legged step and froze again. "Mud bath!" Ezra skidded into a puddle, splashing Ivy as the heron flew away. "Let's try to stick a little closer together on this next stretch," Mom said. There's Ezra. "Let's try to stick a little closer together," Mom said as she coasted up alongside them. "It's warming up, so the gators may be out sunning." Ivy hoped so. That was the cool thing about mountain biking in Florida. When she and Ezra went biking with their other cousins in Vermont, they just had to watch out for roots and rocks. Here, you had to be careful not to run over alligator tails. That was also the cool thing about Mom. Not all parents would take you biking on a trail with alligators. Dad, who didn't love alligators or snakes, preferred paved trails, so he was home making dinner. But Mom was a science teacher who loved all kinds of animals. She understood that alligators on the trail weren't there to gobble up mountain bikers. They were just digesting their food. They could only do that when their bodies reached a certain temperature. If you were biking, you just had to give them plenty of space. Ezra stood up on his pedals and looked ahead, where two older girls stood gazing down at something in the grass. "Gator on the trail?" "I don't think so," Mom said, slowing as they approached. Ivy hopped off her bike and joined the girls. It wasn't an alligator they'd stopped to see. It was a tiny river otter, and it was hurt. So this is Wildlife Rescue, How to Save an Otter. There's also another book called How to Save an Owl, and you can check both of these out from your library. Happy reading!